Hey, what up, YouTube, and welcome back to the Barlow Zone, home of the one and only demon hunter King Kaido himself, sent to the post-apocalyptic wastelands of Fallout. No. It's not a Fallout video. I'm sure, you guys probably already know since you clicked on the thumbnail, right? I ain't trying no bait and switch here. I'm just having fun with my intro. But I do have a breakdown of my theory. I just something I want to get into for you guys. I want to provide a real quick channel update. If anybody wants to get into, I'm going to break it down into the evidence. Feel free to jump to this timestamp. If you want to just get to the theory, see if you even want to hear the evidence, feel free to check out or skip ahead to this time. Real quick update about Barlow and the channel. I am anticipating being forced to reduce my output to 2 videos a week, not doing any less. 1 video per week is going to be my chapter reaction, a chance to dive into any ideas I'm having with One Piece, follow-up video, whatever I feel like talking about, Star Trek, Fallout, Star Wars, who knows, Kaiju number 8, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm going to talk about that one day. Who knows, right? I'm just trying to have some fun with the channel, talk about the stuff I love, but we are going to go ahead and get into it today, because what I want to talk about is the man marked by flame. Now, this is an individual we've been teased with a couple of times. Obviously Law Kid and Luffy were looking for it. We ended up finding out Blackbeard and his crew were looking for the guy. The first time we get mention of the man marked by flames is chapter 1056, Cross Guild. Amazing chapter. Now, in this chapter, it really is more just a passing reference as Kid Law and Luffy are getting ready to leave Wano. They had a conversation, a real brief conversation about, where they're going, what their plans are, what needs to be done, stuff like that, right? And Killer mentions to Kid, hey, you think it's about time we hunt down the man marked by flame? And Luffy's all, wait, what? Man marked by flame? You holding out on information, Kid? I really liked Law's reaction. Like, the panel is really nice to look at, but it really gives that vibes like, hey, you know what? Maybe Law knows something about this individual, right? I don't know. Maybe it was just me. I'm sure, sorry, I forgot to plug in my laptop, y'all. I want to make sure my light doesn't cut off. I'm sure I have a screenshot of the panel I'm talking about, so I'd like to know what you guys were thinking about that. Do you feel like in this panel, you think I'm reading too much into it, more or less, right? Barlow be looking for the little clues here and there to try and figure things out, but sometimes I know I dig too deep and I see things that aren't actually there. Anyway, the first actual full reference, meaning any kind of information about the individual that we get, is actually in chapter 1081, Kuzan, 10th Commander of the Blackbeard Pirates. And in this chapter, we get 2 panels. The first one being actual information. Now, I'm not saying Lafitte's the most trustworthy person, but compared to the second bit, I'm going to say this is actual information. But I got to quote it down here. Lafitte saying, that man can be found on a pitch black ship, and if anyone sails near, they get swallowed by giant whirlpools. Now, I did paraphrase there towards the end. But more or less what we got here is large dark vessel, whirlpools, and Lafitte does mention there's the potential that the individual has the devil fruit power, right? And then Shiryu follows it up with speculation, I guess. This isn't any kind of like factual information based on evidence or research or whatever collected. But Shiryu says, I bet he's with the world government. They don't know for sure. They're making an assumption, but Shiryu feels confidently enough about this. He's willing to say bet, right? But I was going to say point out he said he, but it is man marked by flame. We've always known it was a he, right? Okay, so what do we have from this? Like, what actual information do we have about the man marked by flame? A large dark vessel, whirlpools, potentially associated with the world government, and potentially has a devil fruit. Now I'm gonna go over real quick. Hino Kizu no Otoko. I don't speak Japanese. I know I probably said that very wrong. I apologize if I offended anybody there. To my understanding, this phrase breaks down to flame of scar of man, or flame scar man. Alternative could be fire wound man. From what I have gathered, he refers to the fire. Kizu is a scar or a wound, and then Otoko being man. I do generally trust our community, right? Like we've been involved with this story enough up till this point. We've got a pretty good sense of how Oda likes to write, right? Now, obviously, none of us are world-class published authors like Oda Sensei is, but a lot of times, like our theories, our speculations and stuff, it's like this. We put time and love and research into these ideas, and they have been right. I've been right once or twice since 2009 when I first really started taking on the series. Obviously that means I probably got something like a 99% fail rate, and that's cool. I have fun just theorizing about this stuff. I don't care if my theories come to pass, right? In fact, it almost leaves me wanting more when my theories come to pass, because Oda's the master of the bait and switch, right? Like, he's gonna set something up, reveal little tidbits, hints here and there, and we all start to get confident, like, okay, we checked that box, we checked that box, we checked that box, everything's looking good, it's gotta be. And then what Oda ultimately reveals is just as good. It makes just as much sense, but builds on the next reveal, the next story point, right? Like everything Oda, okay, maybe not everything, but a large percentage of what Oda puts in the story is, highly relevant information to have. So I trust, when a decent part of people I talk to are understanding that this epithet may be more esoteric than literal. I trust that because, the community's been around for a while, right? Like, y'all know what you're talking about. I have faith in you guys. But also because I kind of feel the same way. Like, a lot of times, hints and stuff Oda's giving may seem like they have a literal purpose, but really stand outside of, and it's more like even the hint itself is a hint. Now, the official Viz translation does have the term translated to burn scar man, which it tracks. I don't know. I think he, to my knowledge, is more accurately defined as fire or flame, but burn, it's a side effect of fire. I'm not going to complain about that, since I do not know enough about the Japanese language to argue in any meaningful capacity, right? But I do want to point out that the burn scar man and the man marked by flames can be the same thing without being literal. Like, even the burn scar man doesn't have to be literal. Meaning, man marked by flames could refer to a scar or birthmark or some kind of permanent physical feature, like a tattoo, or how they do their hair, something like that, right? Now, thank God, it looks like this one is going to be on the shorter side for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and get into the theory now, and I'm going to just state it bluntly, and then I'm going to reinforce what I'm stating, right? Loki is the man marked by flame. And in saying so, with that being the stake of my theory, right, I realize there's kind of a potato dish that got served up there with me. If Loki is the man marked by flames, then that means almost certainly Ragnar is the final poneglyph. I know, okay, I get it. This seems like a wild statement. This seems out there, like, maybe Barlow's just reaching too far, right? But stick with me a second, because I do have an explanation, right? So I want to start off with the large dark vessel, right? As Lafitte said, the man can be found on a pitch black ship. Now, as I pointed out, if you guys haven't checked it out already, do go check out my chapter reaction. I do lay out most of the groundwork for this statement there. I'm going to try and keep it brief for the sake of this video. I pointed out that we did get a visualization of the actual size of Needhog, right? Like I hope I still got a panel. If not, I'm gonna have to go get it. But this panel right here, you know, you got Ratatoskr and Luffy on Loki's head, right? And earlier in the chapter, Zoro had already identified that Luffy had gone into his giant form. So that means this right here, the Luffy on the snout of Loki, is the same size as the Luffy that was bearing down on King Kaido at the end of Wano. Who's this big in comparison to Loki. Now, yeah, I know sometimes for the sake of being able to present detail and stuff, Oda hasn't always been the most consistent with how things are portrayed size-wise. I do think we can rest assured that hands down, without a doubt, Needhog Loki is going to be the biggest creature in the entire story. Like height, width, depth, girth, time, space, like he hit all the dimensions. Biggest. Why do I bring that up? Because, well, if he's the biggest creature and Zunesha can walk through the ocean, then that means if Loki took a second, like, okay, you know, maybe he just had a big battle, he needs to take a breather on his way to his mission, right? Now, we're talking that time after Harold's death, before Shanks brought him back, right? When he announced he was going out to get vengeance, right? He took off. If Needhog had to land, he'd be resting on the ocean floor, but like a good portion of his body is going to be above the water. Now, why is that important? Because this is a traditional, proper medieval dragon, right? Like, as a big, long boy, the top half of that resting on water could easily be mistaken for a vessel of some sort, a ship, submarine, something like that. It'd be easy to mistake it because, point number two, the whirlpools. Giant whirlpools form to consume anybody that gets too close. What does that mean? That means there are no survivors that have a first-hand recollection of this person, this ship, this vessel, whatever, right? There is nobody alive who has been close enough to give a first-hand account. Giant whirlpools consume anybody that gets too close. That means all the information we have is people seeing this from a distance or looking through periscope's a submarine. I don't know, the scope, the thing that the guy in the crow's nest uses, right? Like, Captain, iceberg ahead. That's the information we have. People who you were using the naked eye to see off in the horizon, or people using one of those scope things. Point being, since there is nobody with a first-hand recollection of what was going on, and information about the visuals would have to be gotten or obtained from distance, it is easy to believe that a giant black dragon sitting in the water in the world of One Piece, on planet Blue Star, right? Somebody, you know, a few miles away, like, hey, you guys see that big ass ship over there? Or, you know, somebody up in the crow's nest like, Captain, we got hostiles ahead. It would be easy to confuse Loki's dragon form for an all-black vessel. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the one topic or the one point, right? Because the world government affiliation being the last point, I mean, obviously it's a devil fruit, right? We already know that. We don't need to talk about that part. But the world government affiliation, the potential world government affiliation, right? Because that is how Shitter, you pointed out. I bet he's with the world government. That means he doesn't know, he's taking a guess. What happened with Harold was relatively public knowledge. I mean, he was actively out doing missions for the world government. And Loki being his son, now, okay, that might not have left Elbaf, but what if I'm remembering right, he spent like 6 years before Shanks was able to finally bring him back to the island, right? It's not unreasonable to think that people out there, maybe not everybody, it might not be widespread common knowledge, but it's not unreasonable to believe that people learned that Loki is Harold's son. And, well, people were already assuming that Harold was going to bring Elbaf into the world government. Why wouldn't his son do the same? Now, yeah, okay. He was out just wreaking mass havoc everywhere, right? That one definitely feels like the wobbliest. I'd like to know what you guys think, right? Because, wow, the Ragnar part, I guess, real quick before we wrap up. The Ragnar part, I'm mostly going off memory. That this part isn't a set in stone part of my theory, right? Because Elbaf's massive. Like, there's a whole sun realm we haven't been to. The poneglyph could be up there. I'm more so just going off the memory that I don't have a memory of seeing either of the faces of this hammer. To my knowledge, all we've ever seen is this, like, the side wrap around. Like, we've never actually seen the faces that are used to do damage, to my knowledge. And, I mean, Loki's an ancient giant. That hammer's big even to him. That could be poneglyph sized. Now, I'm going to dive a little more into that. I'm hoping at least we don't get a full reveal of, either part of this in the next chapter. I can't see that happening. We still got some battle to wrap up before we get to the conclusion where we'll probably get more information about the man marked by flame. If there's a poneglyph on Elbaf, that's when we'll get it. When we're doing the wrap up, the party, right? The celebration, we saved the day trying to convince Loki to join the squad. That's going to be the point in time where we will get more information about the man marked by flame, unless it is Loki. But I guess even then, that's probably the point in time where we will actually get that information about Loki being the man marked by flame and where he's keeping the poneglyph. I guess final thought before we wrap this one up. I am dead set on the idea that the final road poneglyph is on Elbaf, right? Because, yeah, I know we still got Lodestar, we still got Laughtail. There's still the potential for another island, on the way through those. It just feels like there aren't many opportunities left for this final poneglyph to come up. So it's starting to feel like this chunk of stone has to be on Elbaf. But that's just Barlow, as always. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about this one. How do you feel about my theory? Do you think it's possible that Loki is the man marked by flame? You know what? I know I just did my outro, but I forgot to mention one thing. I didn't have it in my notes. I apologize, y'all. But the marked by flame part, right? I have two ways that this connects to Loki. First being to my knowledge, and I didn't look through every panel in super detail. I scrolled through real quick, did some Google searching just to see what was out there. Loki's always been wearing his helmet since we met him. So in the proper time, the only time we've seen Loki without his helmet is in Needhawk form, and honestly, he's probably still wearing it, because notice one of his horns still got that tape on it. And he's always got the eye bandages on. I want to point out, there is one panel, I really hope I got it, there's one panel where we see extra bandages on his cheek underneath the eye wraps. There's still a lot of Loki we haven't seen and don't know. He could very well match the epithet perfectly. He could actually be a man who has a burn scar on him. I know somebody might want to argue with me there, but you really can't. Like there, we haven't seen all of Loki's head in the present time. We've seen flashbacks. You know, Kid Loki didn't always have the helmet on, stuff like that. Didn't always have the eye wraps on. Alternatively, marked by flame, like I said, I pointed out, it could be an esoteric thing, like, right? Could be a non-literal epithet. When Loki is in Needhawk, his eyes appear to be raging fires. So, that is the official wrap-up. That is, I promise, final thought. We are on our way out today, guys. I'd love to know what you guys think. What do you think the odds are that Loki's going to turn out to be the man marked by flames? And if he is, what do you think the chances are that Ragnar is our final poneglyph? Let me know in the comments. As always, if a YouTube comment isn't enough, feel free to reach out on my socials, X or Tumblr, or join my Discord community. Links to all three will be below. And if you're liking the content, don't forget to hit that like button. Barlow really appreciates it. If you've been back for a few and you're liking them, hey, maybe it's worth throwing a sub, because, you know, this is what I do. I come here to talk about the stuff I love. But as always, friends, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Much love.